So I'm very privileged to be the person giving opening remarks for this esteemed panel full of remarkable women. And I'm glad that I am not the dominant gender on this panel, and I'm the only one. And that is right, especially for a conference like today. So I'm now going to just clarify that I am giving opening remarks and I'm a panelist, but actually the moderator and also presenter is Dr. Divya Sharma, my colleague from UNESCO. And so we will basically run through a set of questions. She'll give a presentation, we'll run through questions, and then we will conclude with a closing set of remarks and summing up what the panelists say. And hopefully we'll do it all in 40 minutes. So without further ado, I will hand over the podium to Dr. Divya Sharma and enjoy. So maybe when we wait, I can just clarify that this session is actually not just the launch of the 2023 GEM report on technology in education, which was a global education monitoring report. The more relevant report is as well the launch of the 2024 gender report on technology on her terms. So this was a follow-up to the 2023 report where the UNESCO Global Education Monitoring Team developed research and advocacy piece on how women and girls' education is affected by and can be leveraged, can be enhanced by technology globally. And India was one of the case study countries that we looked at, and we have some interesting examples from there as well. And it's in connection, yes, so the gender report sought to examine in deeper detail the gender equation or the gender element that the Education Technology Report of 2023 looked at. So this panel will explore the barriers faced by women in accessing STEM education, discuss strategies to promote equitable outcomes and opportunities, and how to foster girls' interest in STEM subjects and to support their interest in STEM subjects. And last but certainly not the least, is to share success stories of women who are seated here with me today, who have created inclusive and supportive environments through initiatives, research, as well as projects and programming. So that is kind of the objectives of the panel discussion, and we now have the presentation. So I did my task of burning up some time and giving you some important information. So Divya, please go ahead.
Okay, finally. First of all, many thanks to the organizers of this amazing conference. So the Global Education Monitoring Report is pleased to launch its 2 reports, not just one. One is global and one is gender report. I think before I start, please give a very big applause to all these aspiring young women who are, persistently helping us, tirelessly helping us, each one of us panelists from day one to end of this conference. And they are here, they are outside, so please. So yeah, I think I'll start with, okay, it's not working. Okay. So first, let me give you a brief overview. What is this Global Education Monitoring Report? Is one of the GEMs. The GEM report is an independent report published and hosted by UNESCO. It has a dual mandate. It monitors SDG 4 targets. And it's also look at the strategic implementation of policies, data, and other tools. And the audience is very broad, from government, from ministries of education to ministries of finance to practitioners, civil society organizations, teacher unions, students, researchers, everyone is included. So before 2002 mandate, the mandate has been updated in 2015. And since then, we have published a lots of topics on education, including migration and displacement, non-state actors, technology and leadership in education, how they affect and how they intersect with education. And not just global reports, not just global report, but there is a gender report, there is regional report covering all the regions of the world to get deeper in the study. Then there is spotlight report on Africa. I think my Kenyan delegation is not here. So youth report, policy papers, and then there are some other data monitoring and policy tools. You can explore these. So before I begin this, before I begin with the topic of discussion on how to make inclusive and equitable STEM education and career systems for women, I want to start with basics. So to create ripple with any kind of technology in any field, and also to understand its side drawbacks or side effects, we also need to have access. I need to have access, you need to have access. Without access, I can't do anything about technology. And when it comes to access to technology, and when we look at girls and women access, they face huge barriers. In comparison to 81% of men, only 75% owned a mobile phone. We talked a lot about developing apps and all. Even they don't even have mobile phone, and this is a global data. And to more than 200 million women, they still don't have any access to internet. So imagine how will we break this barrier, and how we incorporate technology and other solutions when it comes to health, education, and other sectors. So beyond access, when we talk about STEM education, we talk about mathematics, because math is a basic foundation of STEM education. But as someone who had studied mathematics, who had taught mathematics, who has done my PhD in mathematics, I have listened to these remarks a lot especially from girl students, like, oh, it was horrible. I don't like this subject at all. I have maths phobia. I'm not gonna choose mathematics as one of my majors. I'm very happy to choose other subjects. So, and I often heard these from girls. So girls are far more anxious when it comes to mathematics than boys. So this is the study done by OECD. It's another intergovernmental organization for economic cooperation and development. They have their own assessment. They have done it, and they have found that girls are far more anxious. But it doesn't mean that they don't perform well in mathematics at all. They do, but not at the higher level. Their performance remains at lower levels only, like high performance, but not at the higher level. And when it comes to STEM education, there is also a close link with digital skills, because technology are coming up, and we need to have digital skills. And when it comes to like advanced digital skills like programming and coding, women and girls performance is also not very at par, and there is a large gender gap. And you can see, towards the right end corner of this graph, only a few women, have those skills, like advanced skills. And I mean, when it comes to youth and adults, of course, more young people have more skills, but whether it comes to youth or adults, women are not having those skills at par when it comes to men also. And girls are far less likely to select STEM courses. India has the highest share of women students enrolled in technology subjects in South Asia. That's a very good news, but still we are below 50%. We need to do more. And I think many panelists have talked about, like low percentage in STEM. So what I'm saying actually is also like what has already been said. So I think we were kind of doing telepathy when we were doing our interventions. And when you think about majority of STEM graduates, they were females in very few countries. I mean, you look at the regions of the world, and if you look at the 50%, I think you can count just now by looking at this figure. There are only 7 countries above 50% STEM graduates. It's not about enrollment. It's also about retention and keeping them in STEM careers, in STEM workforce, in STEM studies. People always talk about, oh, look at how many girl students we have in our university enrolled. But no, we don't want that. We also want them to graduate and go beyond just enrollment issue. So what does it imply? Less women in courses means less in jobs, definitely. And look at the leadership position in digital transformation or STEM. So 30% of Indian women in computing jobs, no? But, they have higher enrollment, but they are not in jobs. And if you look at the world database, only 70% of patent applications are filled by women globally. So there is a huge gap, and there is a loss to society. This is complete loss to society because we are seeing leadership from digital transformation only through, a very small, narrow perspective, from a unidimensional perspective. We have to broaden our horizon. We have to think multidimensional. So why these numbers don't sound good? They don't sound good to me. I'm pretty sure they don't sound good to you as well. So why is that? So there are many factors that shape STEM aspirations, STEM career, even pursuing STEM. And there are such internal factors like self-confidence. I think many panelists before this panel talked about how women are not that much confident. There was one study conducted that boys in 4th grade, they were more willing to pursue a mathematics career than women or than girls in 87% of education systems. And then beyond internal factors like self-confidence and anxiety, then there are other factors like stereotypes. They persist in society. Many people have talked about it in this panel. I don't have to repeat them. And lack of support at home, at school, and finally outdated curricula, textbooks. So they are all there. And one another factor which we sometimes tend to ignore is that what kind of enabling environment you are trying to provide, the government is trying to provide, so that women can pursue STEM education, STEM careers. So we also did a legal and policy analysis of many policies, not just STEM policies, but STI policies, education policies of all countries in the world. And you see that 68% of countries in the world have policies to support STEM, but only half, I mean, I can't just read this number, explicitly support girls' inclusion in STEM. So you can see that if I have done well, my school, my college, my graduate, everything, but I want to have, let's say, at higher level career, if nothing is done by the government, where would I go? I'm just stuck there. So it's not just the internal factors, external factor, it's also the system at the higher level, from local to global and global to local. Everything is a vice versa effect. So what are those implications if we don't have women and girls in STEM education and careers? Definitely inequality and biases are going to amplify. I think, again, I don't have to say that. Many times we have talked about biases here. There is a very nice presentation by students in that hall. Please go and check it out. Many panelists have talked about it. Go and check it out. So yeah, these technologies are based on algorithm and biases. If you and me are giving biased data to those technology, I'm pretty sure only biased results are going to come out, and that too at the exponential level. So what are some of the recommendations that are coming out from this report, from 2023 report? I think when it comes to leveraging technology for gender equitable education, these recommendations are based on technology only. Almost all of us in this room use computer on a daily basis, and it has 4 arrow keys, right? So downward key is about, is it appropriate? So whatever technology you are implementing, is it appropriate for the context? I mean, putting AI bots or AI chatbots might not help. In some system, it can just help that you are giving a phone or a tablet. And then the backward arrow is about whether are we leaving someone behind? Are we leaving marginalized women, marginalized people when it comes to employing or deploying technology products? So is it equitable? And then upward key, is it scalable? So are we looking at the long-term solutions or short-term benefits when it comes to technology or implementing solutions? And finally, the forward key, is it sustainable? So are we designing innovative technology so that it is valuable for sustainable education futures? So, and look at this girl child just sitting in the middle and looking at all these arrows where this technology is going, whether it's backward, forward, upward, downward. So yeah, we have to look all these things when we design solutions and technology and implement in education. And lastly, I think, because I said it's not just one report, it's another report also. It's the gender report recommendations are in 7 recommendations. So what are those recommendations? So we have to review policies so that they have a gender specific element, and offer role models, mentorship, advice. I think, again, I'm not talking anything out of blue. This has been spoken a lot. So it's really good to see that, we all coming from all over the world, but thinking in the same direction. And then training teachers, training school leaders to avoid or to reduce biases from very early age. It has to start from day one when a girl child is going to school, not just at the later stages when we see that, oh, biases are overflowing all over the places. And finally, digital skills, technologies like penetrating at a very, very, very fast rate. So we have to advance, we have to provide skills. And digital skills is not just about coding and programming, it's about data and information literacy skill, how we collaborate, how we create content, and how we are safe in the digital environment, looking at cyberbullying, looking at data protection rights. So it's a culmination of many things. And then finally, reviewing education materials, holistic approaches, and collaborating with so many external partners, not just the government. Of course, they design, they implement, but it has to be everyone. It's like a hand, and then you can make up strong power. And I think this was also the focus of our Tech on Terms campaign. The technology should be on our terms, when on her terms. So when we design to align with our needs and values, it minimizes harm, dependency, and provides long-term sustainability. So this was our hashtag Tech on our terms, Tech on her terms. And I think, thank you. I'm pretty sure I was fast enough, 15 minutes, less than 15 minutes. So thanks a lot. And please do read this report, and any recommendation you can provide, please do. And I'm happy to chat more after this. So yeah. Okay, I think I also have to run the panel, so I'm going there. So just wait. Finally, hello. Yeah, technology. It can. Okay, so that was very fast-paced. I'm like charged up, actually. So I think objective of this panel is to explore all the barriers faced by women in accessing STEM education, as highlighted by UNESCO reports, not just the 2023 GEM report and gender report, but also UNESCO New Delhi office and Amrita University Braided River reports, and showcase strategies from government, private sector, education institutions for promoting equitable and sustainable policies in STEM organization. So I think my first question is to Anweshaa, Dr. Anweshaa Ghosh, because you have been working in the sector about women, informal work, lots of labor economics, labor dynamics, and women and digitalization of work. Can you please tell what barriers women face when it comes to STEM education and careers from your own experience? And yeah, so all over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, first of all, thank you, UNESCO, for inviting me to this panel. And of course, this wonderful gender and technology, it made my mouth water the moment I heard, wow, this is happening in India. We have to be part of this. It's a fantastic initiative to Amrita University. I think since morning we have been speaking a lot about this topic. I would just want to sort of step back a little and start with the point that women and girls are not homogeneous. We need to understand intersectional identities. It has come out in some of the presentations that, it's important to understand what age they are at, what's the context, the geographical location, and hence one solution does not cut for everyone. So we really need to understand that you need to contextualize what are the barriers according to the populace that you're actually looking to aim at. Having said that, we recently did a study on how young people in low-income households in Delhi have access to smartphone apps. And it was very clear there was, and the age group was 15 to 17 and then 18 to 22. Very clearly, the girls in the age of 15 to 17 had no access. When I say access, please understand that there is access to probably one working phone, functioning smartphone device in the house. And these are houses where multiple generations stay together. There are a number of siblings. So given that there are 6 members using that same one smartphone, you can imagine the time that one gets to spend on that smartphone. So like a very wonderful girl just clearly said that, oh, I just get 15 to 20 minutes access to that smartphone. So I don't know anything about it, as compared to a boy of 16 years who was gaming the whole day because he had access to his elder brother's smartphone. So the fact that you don't have a tool in your hand to experiment it, feel it, look at it, itself is a barrier, because that itself is your starting point of connecting to a basic technology like a smartphone in today's world. So while yes, the pandemic did put smartphones in low-income households, however, the access is still questionable. So we really have to understand when we say, oh, give girls smartphones and they'll start learning how to use it, does not happen. So there are multiple challenges that happen across informal, in low-income households and vulnerable populations that one needs to understand. Secondly, I would like to also address the fact that why would you invest in a girl when you're going to marry her off? It's a question that's age-old in South Asian contexts. You don't have assets to your name. So if tomorrow I want to fund my education, will there be anybody, because I don't have right to property. Technically by law I do, but culturally I do not have access. So that itself is another resource, is another barrier that you have, that how if tomorrow, if I'm aspirational enough and I do want to go ahead, who supports me? Who is able to, where do I get that information that there is probably a scholarship available? How do I access that scholarship? Most of these are online. I don't have access to that smartphone. I don't have a Seva Kendra probably that will tell me, okay, you can go here and help you to do submit and form online. So there are these barriers that exist. I think third very important barrier again is your experience, and a lot of discussion was around trust. Why don't women trust? Because you're not supposed to use it, very as simple as that. B, if I do something wrong, the backlash is immense as compared to a male counterpart. It would be quite immense. Hence, girls and women are very, very psyched up when it comes to using anything new, because even in our community outreach, as Christopher also mentioned, like the moment you ask the girls to touch the mouse, they'll be like 3 days. It takes them 3 days to even touch the mouse. before that, they'll try to, the boys just come and start touching everywhere. They'll touch the monitor. They'll try and unplug the UPSC. But the girls are like, oh no, what if I destroy it? What if I break it? So that itself is a big problem. A, because you don't have access to resources. And B, because you as a girl are not supposed to touch things which are not meant for you. And 3, the violence would be very, very, more immense. And also your experience of violence online. I think we had a lot of girls talking about, meeting strangers online, because here are these girls quite aspirational. It's also a very interesting thing that you can be somebody else on the phone and not be the coy, nice girl that you're expected to be. So you are meeting weird strangers, but you don't know what do you do if you get into trouble. So these are other experiences that you have, are often barriers and challenges that you have. Besides the fact that, the kind of courses you have, the discouragement you have from teachers about maths. Maths is always a very scary subject for most, especially for girls. So I think these are some of the challenges that I would like to highlight from mine. Thank you.
You have 1 more minute to maybe say something how these challenges can be, effectively addressed.
Yeah. Okay. So I think the question is, as I mentioned that, when we talk about solutions, it's not as simple as giving smartphones, but there has to be a lot of, there's a lot of ecosystem building that one needs to do. So it's not just, one policy or one program that one NGO or one multilateral organization is going to run. I think it's the entire ecosystem building that we were talking about in the other panel, how important the household, the community, the market, and the state need to come together to actually talk, what does it mean to have women in STEM, and what are the advantages, and then how do you actually put it into practice, I think. And it's important to understand, yes, there's a technical component, but there's a huge social, cultural component, and you need to address that when you're dealing with the technical aspect, I think, yeah.
Thanks, Anweshaa. Really amazing points. I think you touched upon this access issue and, how it is also gendered, like women versus men and girls versus boys. And I think my next question, then capitalizing on your responses to Dr. Aditi, is about, digital transformation is led by men, and women constitute only 26% of employees in data and artificial intelligence and 50% in engineering. And you have worked in world's leading economies, and from your experience, how we can leverage AI and innovation, to promote diversity and inclusion in STEM education, because we want to reduce this gendered effect in technology, not just from the access, but also from at the leadership level. So if you could elaborate from your own experience and your expertise.
Sure. Thanks for that question. And reflecting on everybody's comment, I want to tell major props to UNESCO for thinking the brainchild on Jian's, I'm stealing Jian's remarks that this is the first legit gender technology conference that I have been to. And major props to UNESCO and Amrita University for organizing such a wonderful event. And I hope this continues in the future, because this is a very, very good start to something as important as what we are talking about today. Also this is just Aditi, not doctor, but I intend to become a doctor, PhD. Okay. So this is a very inspiring environment to get in, and hopefully continue my STEM leadership by gaining a PhD. But on to serious remarks. That is true that, as Anweshaa mentioned, the access issue and, the basic literacy issues are fundamental to gender getting fully into the STEM opportunities. So it's not like the government has not opened up a lot of STEM policies. They have opened up a lot of STEM friendly policies, also women sponsored policies for getting them into STEM. The government of India has created some of these policies, but they haven't been very successful in getting us the participation that we need. In India, we say that a woman gets fully free and independent once she gets financially independent. And the starking remark, the starking statistics on India's women being financially free is that only 16% of these Indian women who, even though have access and have smartphones, do banking transactions online. They don't know how to do banking transactions online. So I was with another financial organization before with the Reserve Bank Innovation Hub, and for us the statistics were that the number of unused women banking accounts, they are dormant. So these are all testaments to the digital literacy and the financial independence of women, which will give them the wings to actually get onto education and sponsorships and mentorships and all that we are talking about. AI definitely is going to be a transformative lever for the society, and some of these applications can be used to study these biases. So as Anweshaa said, psychological factors aside, you could use AI to actually understand what are the systemic root causes for them to be not integrated into these policies and accesses. So you could use AI to beat AI in some sense, to actually say, okay, what data is telling me what is working and what is not. And I just want to build on one small example of Anweshaa, where she said that we can't just give smartphones in the hands of the girl child and say, okay, now they are into STEM, because we've done that. And JPAL comes through 2 decades of researching and building evidence and actually debunking thoughts and ideas which people thought that will work and policies thought we will work. The whole 1 laptop per child, I'm not sure how many people know in this room about the one enigmatic panacea that was thought, and it failed miserably. 1 laptop per child failed miserably, and that did not have a gendered lens to it. So whether that's gendered lens or not, some of the schemes just don't work, because the basic infrastructure, the contexts and the environment that we work in are very different from high income societies. That said, again, building on the AI piece, AI could again be used specifically in the rural context, where there are a lot of survey workers, frontline workers who use these technologies to train them better. So again, how can AI be used is actually building tools which are easier to understand, accessible, and the literacy by itself can be broken by doing a train the trainer kind of a thing. There are applications and there are research studies that we are looking at. We've been looking at we've worked for many years with Pratham on a lot of educational initiatives. JPAL is known to have flagship educational research initiatives, and one of their fundamental programs called as the Teaching at Right Level, which has now been scaled to globally, but in India to many states, 15 states and counting. We are now looking at how teaching at right level can be multiplexed with AI, and also to see how we can actually have a more gender sensitive versions of Taral, which is the teaching at right level, where you can actually where the pedagogy actually looks at that student learning outcomes don't depend on the grade that they belong or the age that they belong, but it depends on their ability to grasp that learning. And so they use basic assessment tools to categorize students by their learning ability and not by the outcomes that you want to achieve. And so if you put a gender sensitive lens to it, you can actually look at what would girls better respond to, what will be their learning abilities, and how can they better get to the learning outcomes we want them to. So again, AI can be used to actually look at educational curriculums, make tailored curriculums for genders, wherein AI is now being used by a lot of educational institutes, both rural and urban, to fast scale learning. So can we build a gender lens on it again through this? Not taking too much time because there's so much to say, there's also a very good role of public-private partnerships in making sure that AI reaches and there's a greater gender representation in STEM. The public policies are working at one level, but the private players can come out to collaborate with public players to actually put in more funding, more scholarships, more opening up more pathways for gender representation. Also, they could actually indulge in smaller boot camp related activities or giving them jobs which actually help them to build the learning path into the programs. At JPAL, we have started in May 2023 in collaboration with data.org. We started this program called as the India Data Capacity Accelerator, for climate and health, where we are training social impact professionals through 3 of our academic partners currently in India, Ashoka, BITS, and IIITD. And we have created data science courses for social impact professionals. And we are looking at how these data science courses can amplify their learning and their ability to come into data science and evolved advanced data science course working such as AI and predictive modeling. So through this fellowship program, there's a realization that we also found out that even though the supply of the talent into these programs was gender balanced, because the universities could attract the crowd to be gender balanced, the entry into the fellowship program and the conversion into the fellowship program showed us that only 30% of the females could convert themselves to become the fellows, as opposed to 70% male. And we were very equitable in conducting this program. So you see, there are fundamental issues which need to be sorted before we start getting onto the places as to applying AI, and of course it's giving us a pathway. There are many studies which we have conducted to look at STEM and technology and the role of how role models could actually be an agents of change for gender representation in STEM. But one remarkable study that I want to point out is we took a study in Pakistan. I'll just call out the name of the study, and some of you may want to actually read about that. It's called as the Encouraging Female Graduates to Enter Labor Force. This is an intervention in Pakistan by Farah Syed, who's an JPAL affiliated researcher. And what we found out is that this was done during the time of COVID. And what we found out is that the females were given the opportunities to actually be introduced to role model based lectures after doing their diplomas, and they were sensitized to these role model based lectures. However, the enthusiasm for them to search for a job was high, but 4 months later or 6 months later, them entering into the labor force was a different picture. The overall study actually said that only 4% of females actually went into the labor force. And the caveats over there was that it was not also probably directly correlated to the introduction of that role model lecture, but it was possibly because in COVID times, the primary bread earner had lost their jobs. And because of compulsion of the low medium income families they belong to, they had to pivot into job market. And so the systemic and the cultural barriers are far higher than any of the innovations that we can carry out and bring this to an equitable balance. So just a very long and mixed answer to your question, but I wanted to bring all these points together.
No, I think you have touched upon many things, a systemic approach from curricula to role models to public-private partnerships. And I think this systemic approach, now I want to move to Dr. Swati, finally, Dr. Swati. I'm right now, she's Dr. Swati. So you have been, founder of 2 leading skills development institutes, universities in India. How can education institution, at a systemic level can better support female students in STEM disciplines to ensure their retention and success? Like I talked about, that it's not just about enrollment. Aditi also talked about it's about retention and then taking them further and further. So from your experience and from your expertise, could you say something on?
So first of all, my pranam to Amma, and I'm so blessed to have her darshan yesterday. I did many years back in Pune, but it was absolutely a blessing that I'm here. And as I always feel that it's destiny which brings you someplace. A week back, I had never thought I would be here. So I must thank Jian for making this happen. Otherwise, I would not have received her blessings. So Symbiosis has been running 2 skill universities, one at Pune and one at Indore for the last around 8-9 years. And there are a couple of points, since we had so much time at hand, I thought I will jot down, which will also help to summarize my thoughts quickly. So it's not just about technology. As Mahatma Gandhi said, that India actually lives in its villages. And more than 60% of the Indian population is actually living in the villages. So personally, I feel that a lot of advocacy, counseling, and mentorship for both parents and girls is required to help them to understand the career opportunities after completing STEM-based education. I've also seen, having worked with rural girls and women, that there is a lot of apprehension amongst the parents, because majority of the tech or engineering jobs are actually in the cities, and parents find it very, very difficult or fearful to send their daughters to urban areas to pursue a career. The third important point I felt was that culturally, I think parents always felt that girls after completing STEM standard would be better off getting married somewhere and raising children. And maybe they were just not physically and mentally capable of pursuing technical or engineering type jobs, and therefore STEM based education may not have always been a consideration at all. And then between the education of a male child and a girl child, as all of you have said multiple times, that the male child education always takes priority than the girl child. So in that context, I feel advocacy and counseling and some kind of mentorship is required. Engagement with local NGOs, self-help groups, industries, parents, local panchayats, even local government officers and social workers may also be a key to bringing more and more rural girls into not just STEM-based education, but we also spoke about bringing them into workforce. Otherwise, we will not be able to make that effort successful. To arrange a lot of seminars, workshops, aspirational short training programs to actually prove that girls can succeed in STEM-based jobs may also be a good point to make them understand their capabilities. And we did a little bit of this in Symbiosis, and very quick story sharing is we are presently training around 3,500 girls in diplomas and certifications around Industry 4.0 or manufacturing excellence and so on, and women also around electric vehicles, a lot of the green jobs. So it took a lot of counseling from our teachers to the parents, first of all, to make them believe that their girls are capable of pursuing these programs, and thereafter also counseling that after completing those courses, these girls can actually work in the industry and it is safe for them to survive in urban areas. So this was again another point which I wanted to bring across. To arrange career and aptitude sessions to understand alignment to STEM job roles and motivate girls and parents to pursue careers in industry and technical jobs. And again, there is a reluctance whether as a girl or as a woman, do you have the capability to succeed in these kind of jobs? You don't know your own capability. So some kind of an assessment or an aptitude or career alignment kind of formal test may help to make them understand their own capabilities. To prepare job roles and curriculum and training plans for the identified job roles is also important, because in my past 10 years of experience, and I work a lot with Maharashtra government since 2012, my observation is that many of the girls are just not even aware what kind of job roles are there in the market. So the first step is to make them understand. Then of course comes the educational part of the STEM-based education or technologies, etc. The local colleges and even skill universities or vocational training partners, they should actually collaborate with the local NGOs, promoters, donors to offer free ships, scholarships. And I know Amrita especially must be commended. They do so much work in this area of providing scholarships and free ships. And I'm sure we need more such Amritas. We need more of the industry also coming forward to provide these free ships. And one such experiment we've been doing in the Symbiosis Skills Universities is where we are utilizing the industry CSR to not only provide complete free education, even lodging and boarding to the girls, but not only that, we are also doing the German dual model where the girls are being trained on the factory premises. So that immediately takes off their inhibition, the quality of training improves, and there's an immediate alignment to the skill competency requirement of the industry. Of course, because these are CSR projects and the CSR laws do not allow the industry to recruit those same girls whom they have provided the training fees, but they become so competent that in my experience of these couple of thousand girls that we are training, each of them has about 3 to 4 job offers by the time they pass out. In fact, the last batch even rejected Mercedes because they came late. So that also tells you their confidence of getting these wonderful jobs. Last but not the least, a couple of steps which the industry should take, and I'm a member of the CII skill committee. We are trying to do this at the national level, is to create a buddy system for girls and women in the workplace. Many girls and women are very, very shy of bringing out their concerns. It's not always about sexual harassment. There could be other problems as well. We also feel that the appraisal systems, and I was mentioning to Jian earlier, that the appraisal systems, the wages being offered, the promotions, the internal growth also has to be commensurate as a male candidate who is doing equally well. We do find differences in that in the industry. So the performance appraisal policies, the labor laws, various other policies also require change. And more conducive work environments for women. We've also seen that we need to track the data of these girls and women who are entering the workforce, because after they do that, then are their promotions and appraisals at the same pace as their male counterparts? And we also need to assess why not. And when we talk about conducive environment as women, so many people have difficulty reporting to me at leadership level. So I'm sure more of these problems must be experienced even in the factories or in the industry, whether in India or outside. And I'm actually telling you my own story because I was just on a Fulbright scholarship, and all of the industries that we visited and the foreign universities in the US that we visited, these problems are there even in a developed nation like the US. So I'm not surprised that it is happening in India. I'm sure it is happening in other countries. Maybe we are not as aware, or formally we may not have the data. So we do need to do research and check how we can create more conducive environments for women. So that is all from my side. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Swati. I think you have touched on many recommendations which I also presented for the gender report, and I think we are very aligned from non-state actor partnership to training role models and building support systems. So from one systemic approach at the education level, I think I want to move to another systemic approach at international organizational level. So my question to Jian is, what policy recommendations should be prioritized to promote gender equity in STEM education and careers when it comes to findings of the GEM report or the UNESCO Braided River report? So could you please elaborate on this aspect, please?
Thank you very much, Divya. And I had such a great time listening very carefully to all the panelists and their presentations and responses. And I feel that I sort of have a role of trying to sum up all the great ideas that were put together, taking guidance from the recommendations. So I did my homework. I looked at the recommendations in both the reports that Divya mentioned. And I think the first thing that strikes me is that from an education point of view, looking at the evidence, we know what works. So what do I mean by that? We know that positive role modeling for girls and women has a significant impact on their learning outcomes. We know that career counseling and having mentorship does have a positive impact on girls' self-confidence, so the internal factors, but also the external factors of how the school environment ends up feeling like for the girls and women. The other thing is that we know girls do better in mathematics up to a certain age, and this is like OECD PISA data together with UNESCO UIS data. There is no inherent genetic weakness or any deficiency. That's utter nonsense, to put it lightly. So there is data to support that there shouldn't be any inequity in the STEM results, learning outcomes of girls and women, as well as in the workforce, as well as in retention rates and progression in the workplace, right? So we know what works. I would say that in terms of the policy, I'm going to cheat a bit because I'm going to merge some. I think we start with the people, the humans, the women, role models, right? Role models, mentorship, train the teachers, train the educators to use gender responsive pedagogy. What does that mean? At the very fundamental, like basic explanation, it's don't use gender stereotypes or don't use gender biased language in the way you teach. That's the like baseline, okay? The second part is look at the materials. We are handed textbooks and we have to handle textbooks and read them for 12 years or 13 years of formal schooling, right? So that has an impact on what we imagine is possible, how we can dream. So fundamentally, governments have an obligation to review and to improve and enhance the teaching and learning materials, also with the training aspect. I want to move more to the workplace as well, because what is the point of having the excellent numbers that India has of women enrollment in STEM courses at the higher education level? It's 43, 44%. It's really, really, really high. In fact, I think it exceeds a lot of so-called developed countries in the world. But why does that drop? Why does that drop to 14% of women researchers, researchers being women in India, or like something like 24, 25% on average of STEM industry jobs? So there is a problem in that connect, right, in that drop. And I think I would echo some of our findings from the Braided River publication, where we found that workplace policies needed to be more flexible, and the issue of safety cannot be ignored. I don't see the safety issue coming out in global evidence. Even in UNESCO's Cracking the Code publication from 2017, we had a four-level ecological model looking at the individual, the family, the school, and society. The issue of safety didn't really come out. But I think in India, right, workplace safety, the perception of safety by the family and the individual, I think that's really, really important. So I'm not saying, again, that male-dominated workplaces are necessarily unsafe, but there are policies that should be enacted. There should be communication to the families of the women, which both Aditi and also Swati, you both mentioned it. And understanding that women are not homogeneous, there isn't one homogeneous block. I think these all speak to the fact that industries and workplaces can do better. And then lastly, which I was very happy to hear in all the conversations that I attended today, is that we need better data. In the project that UNESCO is launching on promoting girls and women participation in STEM this year, for the next 3 years, we didn't have actually any reliable data looking at industry participation for women in STEM careers. It's a lot of like, how do I say? It's disconnected data, not done at the national level. We have good information from the higher education, All India Survey of Higher Education. We have good data from formal school education, but there's like gaps in the data, and also not understanding or measuring the impact of the excellent policies that the government of India has put together on supporting women's participation in STEM. So we need better data that is sex disaggregated, that looks at impact and not just the number of women who have benefited from a scheme or have participated in a certain research fellowship, but what is the actual impact on themselves, on their career progression, on the uplifting of their families. I think that's also very important and a great priority. So I think I'll stop here. Those are kind of my 3 big points that I made, and I'll leave it to Divya to wrap up. Thank you.
Sure, Jian, thanks a lot, especially for the data point. I can understand because I deal all these data point on a daily basis. And I know that, there's a lot of data gap, and without data, even policymakers can't do anything. You can't even understand what is happening, where it is happening. So it's an amazing point. And you said about people also, workplace safety. Safety is not just from the workplace, but also from the digital angle, because now it's a digital safety aspect as well, cyberbullying, data privacy. So yeah, we need all these things. Many thanks. And I think just to wrap up, I want to give every panelist 30 seconds to think about what kind of policy recommendations should India focus on to advance gender equality in STEM. 30 seconds, okay? So it's a tough question, I know, but yes, 30 to, let's say, 40 seconds also. I'm being lenient, so... So, Anweshaa, maybe you can start.
Get mine over with. No, I think it's important. I think mentorship was one of the things, and I think that really works. The buddy system that you're talking about, having one woman at least to fall upon is always, it just makes you more comfortable. It makes you more confident that you have someone you're looking at, and is somebody looking after you. So I think in the mentorship program, I think has always worked. The moment there are some success, even 2 success stories in a community, you will have girls starting to line up in any sort of non-traditional jobs or any sort of jobs. I think mentorship definitely.
Perfect. Aditi, 40 seconds.
Oh, 10 seconds more. No, I'll cut down my 10 seconds. No, apart from what Anweshaa has already mentioned, tailored curriculum, gender sensitive curriculum, for sure. And it's a quick win. The NCB, the NEB can actually look at the content that they have in course curricula right now and make it more gender sensitive. Don't make the actors to be male always. One of these few, headways have been taken up by our founding scientific director, Esther Duflo, who created Poor Economics for Kids. And in her book, she actually teaches kids simple economics concepts, but she keeps female at the center actor or the lead of these stories that she has been creating. So that's a very quick win to bring in. Thanks.
Dr. Swati, to you.
So I think the government has come out with policies. I'm sure you're all aware during elections, the government came out with the Beti Padhao schemes. But particularly STEM, I think in general, more women coming into STEM, we need better labor laws and better industrial policies, which will promote more women who will be encouraged, who will rise and continue with successful careers, who in turn will motivate other young girls to join STEM-based courses by looking at those role models. So definitely that, yeah.
Now to Jian.
Yes, it won't be too long because I'm going to echo Aditi's point, which is curriculum. Curriculum and teaching materials are the tail that wags the dog in education. So when you're having 12 or 13 years of formal education and you're being exposed to gender responsive pedagogical approaches, teaching approaches, as well as material, as a result of the curriculum being gender sensitive, I think that is really the keystone or the area where we can have a big impact. Thank you.
Thanks everyone, from curricula to buddy system to policies. So I think these are amazing points, and to call to action to everyone who is listening, everyone who is going there and implementing technology in education or in general, any steps taken towards education. So thanks also for following the 40 seconds rule. And thanks, you have been amazing audience, like really patient. I know that it's the last session. Everyone wants to attend another dance performance or another dinner. So thanks everyone.